Hello everyone, my name is Heather and welcome to the channel Bookables. Today I'm here to share with you a recent reads video. Today I have 4 books that I want to talk about that I've read recently. I want to share with you my thoughts and feelings on them, and a lot of them are really anticipated releases of the entire year. 3 I was very much looking forward to reading, so I'm going to share with you my thoughts and opinions on them. I will leave timestamps down below if you want to hear about one particular book, and as always these will be spoiler free. I'm going to tell you what I thought. I'm going to tell you what the book is about, what I rated it, and what I liked about it, and what I didn't like about it. So the books I will be talking about today are The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth, Happy Place by Emily Henry, Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and The Last Place by Taylor Adams. So I have a lot of things to say about these books, so let's just dive right on in. So the first one I want to talk about is The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. This is my first Sally Hepworth book. She has written quite a fair few, I believe. 6 or 7 books. I haven't read one of them because I just haven't really had any interest. And this one sounded interesting to me. The cover was in it. The cover was interesting. I gave it the book of the month, so I was like, I'll try it. And overall, it was okay, but I'll say it was very forgettable. If I can give it to a rating right now, I would give it a 3 out of 5. It's a thriller that is not very thrilling. It kind of is marketed as a thriller, but it's more about like a dissection of a marriage and whether or not you really know that person. In this book, we follow a character named and at the beginning of the book, Pippa and her husband and their 2 young girls are at their house. They have this house that kind of overlooks like a cliff, if you will, and it's like a famous cliff where people will often go to jump off to end their lives, which is not a good thing. And it happens a lot, and usually the husband sees it and he'll go and kind of talk to the victims and try to get them to, like, you know, step down. Every time it's been successful, so it's like, yay, great. But this one time a woman comes and she actually ends up, you know, doing the thing. And police comes, and it turns out maybe her husband is more involved than she ever thought he would. And it's about basically their marriage. This whole book is about their marriage and whether or not he says he really is, whether or not he's got some different things going on with him. And it was just okay. The plot twist was okay. It just wasn't very thrilling. I don't think I would classify this a thriller by any means. Maybe I'm alone in that. Maybe Sally Hepworth is known as being a thriller writer. Maybe she's known with having a more contemporary book with some thriller elements thrown in. That's what I would say to this one. It's more about like Pippa and her kind of codependency on her husband and whether or not that's a good thing, and trying to figure out what he's kept from her, also what she's kept from him. And a marriage can look picture perfect from the outside, but on the inside, is it really? Spoiler warning, it's not, because no marriage is picture perfect ever. I don't care however you want to paint it as. Nobody's relationship is. So it was okay. I don't have anything more to say about it because it wasn't that interesting. Like, I flew through it, you know, it was somewhat interesting, but at the end I was just like, okay, like, it was okay. It was a solid 3-star for me. It's one that I liked. I wasn't mad I wasted my time on, but it's not one I would overly recommend and tell people read it. It's so thrilling. It's so captivating. It was just kind of meh to me, but it wasn't so meh that I hated it. Come to my channel for really thought-provoking reviews. Get what I mean? It was just kind of okay. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was just meh, like I said. It was okay. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best. It was just kind of right there smack dab in the middle. Probably my most anticipated read of the whole year, as probably a lot of ours, and that is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry's romance books. I have talked about it time and time again. You guys know I enjoy them. I have given every single one of her adult romance books a 5 out of 5. Including this one. This one might be my favorite. Whether or not I'm alone in that opinion, I don't know, but I feel like I resonated the most with this book because of my age and where I'm at in my life. With all of that, I just felt very seen in this book, and I was like, this is amazing. So I loved it. I love Emily Henry, but I've said time and time again, I don't enjoy her young adult books. In fact, one of her young adult books is like one of my least favorite books, so there's that. But adult romance, she is the bomb. I fully think she's worth the hype. I love them. So this book is basically a second chance romance. It's about Harriet and Lynn, mainly Harriet, and Harriet and Lynn have been together for a long time. Harriet went to college and she made 2 best friends. I want to say one of them is Sabrina, the other one's Cleo, and they became like kind of a trio. I did not mean to rhyme that. And they just became instant best friends, like an instant family. And then over the years, their friend group has kind of expanded. It expanded to Cleo's partner. I forget her name. Also Sabrina's partner as well, Parth, and obviously Wynn, who is Harriet's partner. And so they've all just kind of become this really big friend group. Harriet and Wynn get engaged, everything's great, but at the beginning of this book you learn Harriet and Wynn are separated. They are not together anymore, and nobody knows it. On the kind of DL, and basically the beginning of this book, Harriet usually goes to this thing in, I want to say it's Rhode Island, where they go to Lobster Fest. If you've seen Bob's Burgers, I talk about this episode. It's an episode in season 1 called Lobster Fest, and I keep thinking about that whenever I talk about Lobster Fest. Bob. And she's gonna break it to her 2 best friends that she has broken off with Wynn. And so she goes there, but surprise, Wynn is there because another big surprise is their last summer at this lake house at Sabrina's family's. And she's like, this is gonna be our last house. This is gonna be our last trip. We need to make it memorable. And double surprise, Parth and I are getting married this weekend to celebrate. So Harriet and Wynn are like, crap, we can't tell them that we're not together anymore because it would wreck the entire week. So what do you know, let's just pretend that we haven't broken up, that we're still together. That shouldn't be any problem, should it? Like ... And it kind of goes from there. So yes, obviously it's a second chance romance because Harriet and Wynn are estranged. You kind of go back and forth. Emily Henry's kind of known for this, of when Harriet and Wynn first met, of how their love story came to be, kind of the falling out, of why they separated, and of course the recoupling again. And it's a beautiful love story. I really enjoy Harriet and Wynn's love story. It was very organic, I feel like. Even the way they kind of fell apart was very much organic and truth, and a lot to do with grief and how to handle that grief with a partner is very, very difficult. And I love the way Emily Henry wrote it. But the main reason I love this book was, yes, the romance was amazing, but the friend group was astounding. She does really great with friend groups. This friend group, they're all in their 30s. They all are very settled and grounded in their lifestyle. Cleo, I hope that's her name, and her partner have this rural farm in upstate New York, and they are doing great in that. Sabrina and Parth are both lawyers, I want to say, somewhere important, and they're both doing great with that. Harriet is a resident trying to be a surgeon, and Wynn has moved back home to where he grew up to kind of help take care of his mother. So everyone, like, you know, in your 30s, you finally figure out kind of who you are, who your friend group is. You know, you might be expanding your family, you might be settling into your careers more, and sometimes things with that drift. And so this friend group is really struggling with the drifting process, particularly the character Sabrina. She's kind of the one that has everyone all together. She schedules the plans. She schedules all of these plans for this whole week for them being together. And the whole book is about their found family and friendship and how they're afraid to tell each other the truths in their lives because it might break their friendship up. But in reality, it comes to be, that's not a spoiler, I think you just put it together, that, you know, it's not a friendship to be broken. It's a family that is rooted in a really, really deep trust. I kind of compared it when I read this in my vlog to kind of like some friendships are like really strong trees where the roots are very, very deep, and it would take a lot, and I mean like a lot, to put that tree over. Yes, branches may fall off here and there because that's what happens in friendships. Fights happen, you may grow distant from time and again, but those roots are grounded, and they're grounded for a reason because that friendship is more like a family that has come to it. I also talked in my vlog, I have 2 best friends. I have 2 best friends that I've known since I was 14, and we were super close. We're all in our 30s now. We all have very different walks of life, but are we as close as we used to be? No, but when we get together, we pick up like nothing's happened, that's for sure. And it's just, you know, it's kind of more of a sisterhood bond, not just like a BFF relationship. Like, I know I can call them at 2 a.m. and they would meet me wherever I needed to. You know, if anything happened, they would be there for me. It's a very strong rooted friendship that's also like a family. And reading this, I just felt so seen because there were some characters I was like, I don't want to, you know, grow distant. I don't want, and I was very much like that a while ago when I was like, I don't want to be distant from my friends. Like, we're not going to be friends anymore. What's going to happen? We don't see each other. We don't talk. Oh my gosh. But you have to have faith in the friendship and relationship you created with your friends if it's going to be that lifelong friendship. So I just loved it for that because it's so true to, I think, my age and friendships, because there's some friendships that come and go because that's life. But there are some friendships, like I said, that are really strong trees that are really rooted and grounded in there. And these are that friends in this book. So I loved it for that. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I love the relationship of Harriet and Wynn, of how they both cared for each other so much, and how there was a lot of grief in this book that I also really resonated with as well in my time in life. Like, I was like, this is the perfect book to read right now. Like, this is equal hitting. This is equal part hard-hitting, equal part like really romantic, and I was there for both of them. But the relationship was also really great as well, how they came to be together and how they, you know, the recoupling and pretending they were together, which I don't know, but I loved it. 5 out of 5. I dare say it's my favorite because, like I just said, the people in this book were my age and going through kind of the same things I'm going through with life changes and being more great. It's just, if you get it, you get it. That's all. I don't know. I could gush about this book forever, apparently. Let's move on. Now to another very anticipated book for me, and that is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I really try to do it. Every time you guys leave a comment, I literally practice it, and then when I get to film, it just goes away. If I didn't, please keep correcting me because I need to be corrected, and on one day I will say it right. I've read all of her books before. I love them all. You guys know my favorite book of hers is the Happy Ever After playlist. This one is kind of a spin-off on her previous book that she wrote last year called Part of Your World, where you follow the best friend of that book. This one is Brianna, who is an ER surgeon. She's kind of like, she wants to be the chief of the ER, and she is just not doing well in her life. She is going through a divorce because her husband, who is the worst, was cheating on her with one of her really good friends. So she's going through that, and her brother is also really not doing well physically. He is in, I want to say he's in renal failure, and he has a very rare blood type, and so he has to be on dialysis a lot, and he's just struggling with depression. He needs a new kidney in order for things to be better for him, and that's just not looking very likely. So Brianna is very depressed. She is not having a good time in her life right now. And then she meets Jacob. Jacob is a new ER doctor at her hospital, and the first day he works, he is deemed as Dr. Death, which is not the title you want at a hospital because like all of his patients die, and she's like, you know, like that sucks. But eventually they start talking, they start writing letters back and forth to each other. It becomes really cute, and what goes on to be is basically they pretend to be in a fake relationship for his family, but also he decides to give his kidney to her brother because his mom had a kidney transplant, and he's always wanted to repay the favor, so why not? So it's kind of like a fake dating, but also like I'm giving your brother a kidney transplant, but also I'm kind of in love with you. We've got a lot of things going on in this book, so you can guess clearly the fake dating is going to come into real feelings, obviously, but she does it so well. She writes another, just like Emily Henry, she writes a lot of really good romantic feelings, but also with a lot of depth in them. This book is a lot about trauma, particularly with Brianna. She suffered a lot of trauma in her past relationship. So she has like kind of lost all faith in men and like finding the one and marriage, and that's stupid to her. She thinks that's just somebody's gonna break her heart, somebody's gonna leave her because they always do, somebody's gonna mess with her because they always do, so she can trust no one but herself. Meanwhile, Jacob is a very trustworthy person. He also suffers from a lot of trauma from his past relationship because it turns out his ex-girlfriend is marrying his brother, so it's like, damn, both these characters have people that are just horrible to them. So how can they find love again? You guys can, and you guys will. That's not spoiling. We can all see where it's going, but the way it took and the way they talked about the relationships and things like that, I loved it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I was here for it. It was cute. I recommend all her books. She does, like I said again, a lot of romance, great romance with all that tension and chemistry, and mixes it well with a lot of depth to it, and I am here for it. And the last book I want to talk about is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. This is a new thriller that I was very excited for, mainly for the plot. So Taylor Adams is best known for Last Exit, which I did DNF last year. I just wasn't feeling it, didn't love it. I have read another one of his books, Hairpin Bridge, and he has a very formulaic way of telling his story. So this book, the plot, if this plot doesn't want to make you read this book, I don't know what will. So in this book, we have a character named Emma who is house sitting in this like beach house that's very, very like isolated, like it's kind of in northern Washington if I'm not mistaken, and she's house sitting, she's just reading books on her Kindle all the time. In the beginning of the book, she finishes this really horrible horror novel called, like, I think Murder Mountain, and she finishes it and she's like, this is horrible. And of course, when you finish a book on Kindle, Amazon's always like, do you want to review this book? And she's like, you know what? I hated it so much. Yes, I do want to review it. And so she does it. She gets on her computer. She's like, this is the worst book ever. This is the... And she just, you know, goes all out for it, which, I mean, good for her. Share your feelings. That's what, you know, reviews are for, obviously. But, you know, little you know, much to her surprise, a few hours later, the author comments back and is like, hey, like, you didn't like my book, which, by the way, in my vlog and all the times I've been talking about this, I've been like, don't ever tag an author in a bad review, which I still stand by that 100%, but she never did. She just straight up reviewed the book because nobody else reviewed it, so she was just the only one to review it so far. She didn't tag the author at all. She was just stalking his own reviews, so review at your own risk? I don't know. Anyway, the author comments back and he's like, hey, you know, I worked really hard on this. Like, this is a novel that took a long time. Like, can you think about your review and how it's going to affect other people buying my book, and could you take it down? And Emma's like, you know, thanks for your opinion, but like, reviews are up here for people to read to figure out if they want to read it or not, and I'm keeping mine up here. And he like actually says like, this is your last chance, take it down. And she's like, I'm good. And I'm like, oh crap. So what do you know? But weird stuff starts happening at the place that she's staying, and then it kind of goes from there. Taylor Adams is known for writing books that take place in one day. I did not think this one would because of the way the plot was, but it does. I would say like the first quarter maybe takes place over a couple days, but the majority of it, like the hunk of it, takes place in one single night. And you are, I think with thriller books, you can either be a big fan of that trope or not a big fan of that trope. For me, I do not do well with that. There are some books where I'm like, it's okay, but it's usually not my cup of tea. I do not like thriller books or any books really that take place in one day. They're just kind of hard for me to digest. I don't know why, they just are. So that's one thing I did not love about it. And other things, I didn't love the twist that much. They weren't that great. And I also feel like they kind of he used trauma a little bit as a plot device, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but it wasn't the worst book I ever read. It just wasn't as thrilling as I thought it was going to be, like a horror author coming after a reviewer. I thought was like, this is going to be intense and crazy. And it was, the book was, like, it gets really, like, this would be translated amazingly into a movie. I'll say that right now. I would watch the movie. Would I? I don't watch scary movies. I would think about watching it, but it would be a good movie, I'll tell you that. But overall, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It wasn't horrible, it wasn't bad, it just wasn't for me. I kind of wanted a little bit more from it, so it kind of let me down in that regard. But I will tell you this, and Taylor Adams' acknowledgments, which I loved, he put this in here, and it says, lastly, a thank you to my readers for your support and enthusiasm. I realize that given this acknowledgement is in a novel about an evil author terrorizing a reader, that may sound like a threat, but I promise it's not. Thank you all for reading. I'm so lucky to be able to do this. I just feel so bad for me. It's probably like, if people hate this, they're gonna think I'm gonna stalk them or come after and kill them. And I'll be honest, when I finished this book, I was like, oh no, like, I'm scared to share my feelings on this. I didn't hate it by any means. I'm not gonna write a scathing review, but I'm a little worried. So Taylor Adams, again, please don't come after me. Please. But it wasn't horrible by any means. It just wasn't for me. So there you have my thoughts and feelings on 4 books. Whether or not you will read them or not, let me know your thoughts and feelings on them as well. If you've read them, I would love to know. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.